So, I haven't made a video in a while. Just been going through a lot of different stuff. I was on Spravato, S-ketamine, and what that did to me is it slowed down my perception of time, weeks and weeks after, and that's coming back to normal. I'm also dealing with the kind of, I guess you could call it a dark night of the soul, where it's just like the instead of like spiritual enlightenment making me more happy, it's kind of more causing more disorientation, and I am trying to just reincorporate my separate sense of self again. Just kind of a bad, I mean, it's been really good for me. I feel like it's the reason I'm here is to learn all that stuff. And I kind of, when I got into that stuff, it kind of just all clicked in for me. So it was never, it was always, it kind of just felt like home for me. But I don't know, sometimes I get lost in spiritual bypassing, and then I don't feel my emotions as much as I should. I don't know, I've also been kind of just still struggling with attachment and trauma from a bad weed trip I had 10 months ago that I've talked about, and social anxiety. I guess the thing that scares me the most is like with the non-dual awakening is, even though I know there's no separation between me and anybody else, it kind of feels like when there's perceived rejection, it feels like a part of me is rejecting itself in a way. And I had this realization where I'm not really afraid of what other people think of me. I'm afraid of what other people can't think. It's kind of like, you know, I try to talk to somebody and they kind of don't have the capacity to understand, or, you know, we all do things in life that we sometimes don't know how we impact other people, but our lives are so busy that, you know, we can't really understand the impact. I don't know, been doing stand-up comedy, and that's kind of fun. I really do enjoy that. I've been getting much better, but a lot of the time I don't really hang out with a lot of the comedians. I'm only friends with like one or two, and it can get just very, I don't know, like, it's kind of like I go there, do my thing, everybody says I do a really good job, and I appreciate it, but at the same time, I kind of just come back and spend a lot of time by myself. I also have kind of a hard time with just like letting things be and not trying to figure things out. It's like sometimes I think I'm like a main character of a simulation, and everything just feels like a simulation because of the patterns and everything. I don't know, and then it's like a lot of the rejection, especially from the opposite sex, you know, doesn't come from me needing validation from them. It comes from, like, I guess, not getting validation from, you know, guardians at a young age. It's much better now, but it just kind of brings it all back up. And I've said this before, but I think, you know, I don't want everybody to, you know, become spiritually awake, because I think a lot of people that aren't disabled don't necessarily understand that, you know, having an ego and having a sense of freedom and having a sense of doership is kind of a luxury, even though I know for a lot of people it can be stressful. You know, being yourself is a huge gift, because a lot of the time, because of my derealization, I kind of feel like things are just happening and I'm not really doing anything. And when it comes to, I have a really bad YouTube addiction, so I kind of just sit and watch YouTube a lot of the time. I feel like a lot of these days, a lot is very cliche, so a lot of, nuanced ideas and, like, a lot of, I guess the, counterculture stuff just feels very cliche. And a part of me just wants to be, an animal and just be, um, normal just in my body. But I guess what I was trying to say is that, everything just kind of feels manufactured these days and very cliche. I also, I guess, struggle with just, like, feeling like I'm one of those people that, like, either I'm afraid of the closeness or, like, I'm afraid of getting rejected. So either I am really attached to you or I don't know what to think of you, kind of thing. I've also got a chance to go on the Soft White Underbelly YouTube channel, and I thought that would be a really good opportunity at first, but then I was like, maybe the exposure would be too much for me, and I just wanted to stay at home, and just live my simple life. I also struggle with really bad paranoid delusions, and I could tell the difference between them. It's just really hard to, it's like hard because I can tell the difference, but my mind is telling me, like, watch your back, like, just hypervigilance all the time. And another thing too is when I'm in social situations, kind of just feel like I'm on a tightrope and I don't know the next thing I'm gonna say. And I was watching the show Shrinking, and Jason Segel has a client in that show that says it feels like an external force is manipulating him and making things happen and kind of fucking everything up, and I kind of feel that too. I also struggle with I get freaked out about karma and just like this predestination and determinism a lot of the time too. Yeah, and I don't know, just where I live, a lot of people just do business as usual, and I deconstructed a lot of Christianity, and a part of me still believes in God and the symbol of Christ, but a lot of people believe in really crazy things. So deconstructing all that kind of made me feel a little crazy. Yeah, and then just thinking about, whenever I get upset, I go back to my early childhood and just think about, the friends that I had in the simple times just playing video games. I've lost a lot of passion for video games, mainly because I guess the video game industry has changed and is not what it used to be. And that was like my main escape back in the day, was just video games, and now it doesn't really feel like a safe space for me anymore. I don't know. I've been trying to open out my heart, but like I said, when you feel like you can't really reach anybody, it feels like, the heart's just kind of closed and everything just kind of feels like nihilistic and dull, but I know things matter and I know I'm part of reality and that everything's gonna work itself out. I don't know, I feel like a lot of this stuff, a lot of my trauma, like, is better now, but I could still feel like the unconscious kind of like in my body, just like screaming inside, like this, like a lot of it's resolved, but it still bothers me, if that makes sense. I don't know, the world's just getting more and more absurd, and everything just feels really, really strange. It's hard to really put into words. Like I said, I've been trying to be more active, trying to do more stuff, but it's hard when you just don't really have the motivation to do much. I think what I wish for society is that I wish we could be a little bit more conscious of how we affect one another. And I watched a video, a Soft White Underbelly interview, actually, where this guy was talking about his life review, and the life review is a common thing in near-death experiences. And he talked about how like he experienced every bad thing he's ever done, and he experienced what it's like for from the other side, from the other person's perspective, and that got me thinking because I don't want to be ignorant, but I don't really fear death as much as other people. I actually look forward to death. I fear the death of my loved ones and those closest to me, because they're the ones that are taking care of me. But yeah, and then the thing is with the derealization is like you try your hardest to be present, and you could be happy and laughing, but it just feels like it's happening to you and you're not doing it, and it can just feels very I don't know, like I heard something on a podcast where like depersonalization releases endogenous opiate receptors, and it can, I don't know, I just feel like a sense of like just emptiness, and not like the peaceful like Buddhist emptiness, but like just like the sense of like I can't feel a lot of and process a lot of what I went through. And I think I mentioned this last time, but my last psychedelic experience, I released a lot of stuff and a lot of catharsis, and I feel like I'm kind of back at square one with that, and sometimes I just want to cry, but I feel like I can't. Yeah, it's just with the OCD and the paranoid delusions and not getting things resolved with people, you just kind of have to fill in the blanks, and it can be super exhausting because you kind of realize like, oh yeah, just this is over, this past, but it just, you get scared that it's connected to something, and it just gets very disorienting, but then you realize, and what kills me is like, I don't know what the other person is going through, and I know I have a lot of anger, but I mentioned this in a previous video, like trying to just love everybody unconditionally, like Jesus, I guess, is something I'm trying to do, and it's just been, I don't know, very, very difficult, because like I never know how I feel about anybody anymore, because you know, the concepts we have about people and what people actually are two completely different things, so it just can be really hard to just find space for them in my heart. But I always pray for the when I pray, I always pray that, you know, I could just keep these people in my heart no matter what I do with them. And I don't know, I got a new caretaker, and she's been taking me outside and doing a lot of things, and I want to be more active in the spring and summertime. But like I said, when I go on YouTube and I see all these people talking about, like, you know, how like depressed they are, like I feel for them, but I don't know, it just feels like it feels like all stimulated to me, and like it's hard to tell what's real and what really matters, and what's just my mind playing tricks on me, and that can be very hard. But yeah, I'm gonna try to make more videos more often. It's just been really hard because on the outside, I know I look pretty normal, but on the inside, it feels like my brain is kind of like I don't want to say hurricane, but kind of like a messed up weather system where it can never really feel stable, and it's like I'm always like changing personalities, even though I don't have dissociative identity disorder. It just feels like, I don't know, I never know what my next thought's gonna be, and then I kind of just go into these thought loops, and my therapist told me that my life is like an everyday LSD trip, and I don't know, it's hard when, you know, you have these perceptions about life, and, you know, you feel like reality, or the reality that's appearing to you, is supposed to be a secret, and you can't really tell anybody about it. And like I have dreams where like I'll try to say something to somebody and they won't understand what I really mean. And like I'll try to say what I really want to say, but it just doesn't compute to the other person the way I want it to. And that's a kind of a characteristic of cerebral palsy and stuff. It just gets really frustrating, especially. And I don't know, sometimes I don't feel like I choose the best people to attach to and have feelings for, but at the same time I know I can't help it because love defies logic a lot of the time, and it's just, I don't know. And then I remember that a lot of the paranoia I've had with people that I've become best friends with, like it's the same thing, just in different clothing. And like I said, I'm trying to reestablish my sense of self again, because being in that no self state all the time is really, really, really hard to deal with, because it's like, you know, you just get this thought like, oh yeah, there's nobody here, but then you realize that's just a thought too, and you have to act in a world, because we're in a society and we're in reality, but it's just getting weirder and weirder, and it's getting like reality TV, and it's, I don't know, it's just, I feel like culture separating us from nature, and we're just getting further and further away from each other, even though we should be more interconnected, like a lot of people say. But anyways, I just thought I'd come back and make a video. I'm going to try to make a video once a week or so. I did this uncut because I just wanted to see what might come out, and I noticed the videos that I just say fuck it and upload usually get the most views, so we'll see how this goes. Thanks for watching, everybody.